my goodness, I love Godzilla. It was the inspiration for me ever since I was like a 4-year-old. I was not some cringe norm droid who thought, "Hey there, lizard with a lot of fish, Matthew Broderick." He was a titan with one of the best designed casts of characters, villains, and allies I've ever seen. I learned about many of the lost monsters, such as Baggin. I'm not sure if Douglas was actually lost or just some doofus online losing their marbles. I just remember his stupid name. Each movie, a lot of humans, they're kind of boring most of the time, especially in the dub. Even if it's well written, the dub will surely make it boring. Um, that's about 90% of every film, with 10% amazingly dated effects. The creativity and ingenuity shines through despite all these. The 2004 game, fantastic. A few years back when I was starting to get into Magic the Gathering, I made a bunch of really terrible, overly cautious, so Magic fans didn't really expect for Wizards to pull a Reddit and make a copyright alter made by my wife's boyfriend or whatever. There are Godzilla alters to some of these, and that's pretty amazing. I think the best part is that since they know that we're nerds, they're not just the mainstream ones. You got King Caesar, you got Mothra's egg. Like, who cares about Mothra's egg? Like, that's amazing. No, we're talking about Godzilla, King of the Monsters, legendary 5-mana trampling 7/3, who says lethal damage dealt to creatures you control is determined by their power rather than their toughness. So it's a 7/7 with trample that dies to languish, in other words. I'm sure after the realization that this was real for Commander, everyone probably thought about Flowstone. And you know, that's what this deck was gonna be. And I'm here to report that Flowstone cards are generally awful, even by my janky ass standards. I might have added a couple here or there. I really wish I added the Flowstone Anthem card in hindsight. But also, speaking of the altars, this is an altar. This is not really Godzilla. This is Zilortha, Strength Incarnate. But that's a stupid fucking name. Why would you care about someone named Zilortha, Strength Incarnate, when you can have Godzilla as commander? The answer is you don't care about Zilortha. You care about Godzilla. And this is a very, very simple deck. What's its gold? Big creatures with a little toughness as a drawback, but it's not a drawback here. That's it. Let's look at it. We'll first go over the essentials. Crop rotation is quasi-ramp, but the most interesting part of the deck. We can use crop rotation to grab Teetering Peaks as a 2+ bonus to a creature as a combat trick. This can save one of your guys and kill one of your opponents while also kind of ramping in a way. Our main board wipe is Monstrous Onslaught. Need to secure a big creature and make sure it can get through. Get one big creature. That should be enough to try and kill most of the things they have. But you have a lot of big creatures. Then you can attack for a smooth passage. Third weirdest thing about our deck is Nova Chaser. Elementals frequently have like 1 or 2 toughness with high power. Frequently die at the end of turn. Nova Chaser is an elemental with champion and elemental. So you have to exile an elemental when it enters the battlefield, or you sacrifice it. Elementals, so there's a weird sub-theme thanks to Nova Chaser and literally no other card. Here's all you need to know. In this deck, a lot of elementals sacrifice themselves at the end of the turn anyways. This can be a 10/10 for 4 with trample with no drawback. Eat a dick, Gigantosaurus. Best thing in the deck, awesome, I love it. 1 Flowstone card. It's an aura that gives a creature +2/-2, which can be a kill spell or a pump spell that doesn't even make your creature more vulnerable. There's a lot of those, and I could probably emphasize the deck building like that, but they were weak, and it already has a weird enough curve as is. I enjoyed the flexibility there. Cards like Flowstone Slider were pretty tempting, but pretty bad. Bolt Bend is here for removal insurance. Chaos Warp, Nevdis, and Beast Within are catch-all removal spells. We have a few tutors and a few draw spells, but the draw spells are an important aspect of the deck, obviously. Most of the drawing is based in power. Now, high power matters decks are usually pretty common, and they usually have a lot of these kinds of cards, especially for green and red. So the thing that shows the most differences with a high-powered Creatures Matters deck is how you draw. This deck really likes the stuff where if a creature has a given power and enters the battlefield, you draw a card. This is because this is not about making one creature really, really big. It's about a lot of creatures that happen to have high power. So you draw gradually throughout the game. Some of the ramp is tailored towards being about big creatures. The Goreclaw, Gruul, Keyrune can turn into a 3-powered creature. So that's, well, Flametongue Kavu is even better now since it's a durable blocker in addition to a 4-mana removal spell with 4 power. A lot of high-powered hexproof and shroud creatures have really bad toughness, but now they have good toughness. So they're really irritating, and they just keep attacking and keep killing stuff. Lightning Berserker, King of the Fire Breathing, best, so cool. You can give it haste and like turn it into an X spell that returns to your hand. Just, oh, good card, good cards. A lot of little nuances throughout this deck, but since it's not the strongest deck in the world and they're pretty self-explanatory, long story short, there is synergy with creatures being big powered, attacking, entering the battlefield, and dying, and that kind of happens sometimes. That's really it. This is probably one of the simpler decks from the new set, because this new set, Ikoria, it's got some weird stuff. Most of what you'll be doing is playing above the curve creatures and smashing face in this deck, though. It's pretty easy to understand the deck, and it's a pretty easy one to play. Its price is not in the best place for noobs of the game. It's not cheap right now, but it can be easily adjusted, mostly by making the land mana base a lot cheaper. And, you know, once a few cards become less relevant, it'll also become cheaper, so gotta wait for Eldraine to rotate, maybe. Aside from that, it's really just a simple aggro deck that for commander can draw and last longer, obviously. It could be a lot more well optimized for a better curve, though. If you have any suggestions for some more interesting options to take this deck, I'm all ears, because I admit this is pretty bland. I feel like it is efficient, though, relatively speaking. So it does what an aggro deck in Commander should do, which is last. It's not as much about you better kill people as fast as possible. Aggro decks in Commander are more like you better deal a lot of damage fast while also not tapping yourselves out, no pun intended. Ciao! And seriously, stay safe with the corona thing. Not to the young folk out there as much, but your relatives. You might be able to handle corona, but some of your relatives might be hurt by it. So stay inside like you've always wanted to, with all your horrible, horrible, I'm a funny introvert memes, okay? We all know that. Once again, ciao.